Many people are not expecting the Florida Gators to be good this year. And a large reason for that is because Graham Mertz is expected to get the start at quarterback. Now, we know that Graham Mertz, during his time at Wisconsin, he wasn't good. He was a blessing to opposing defenses, and he pretty much held Wisconsin's offense hostage. And he hit the transfer portal, and he ended up transferring to Gainesville. He's expected to be the starting quarterback for Florida this year. And not too many people are expecting anything spectacular out of Graham Mertz. As a matter of fact, a lot of people expect this guy to be amongst the worst quarterbacks in the SEC this year. But let's play devil's advocate, right? Let's try to have a little bit of optimism. What if, and this is a hypothetical situation, what if Graham Mertz actually surprises us and he actually has a good season for Florida this year? What if he has a Bo Nix or Michael Penix-like resurgence? You look at Florida's roster, offensively, they don't really have a lot of proven talent. Their offensive line has a couple of question marks there, but I think at best their offensive line should be slightly above average. I don't think they're going to have one of the worst offensive lines in the SEC. They have one of the best running back duos, not just in the SEC, but in college football. You have Montrell Johnson, Trevor Etienne. Both of those guys were really good for Florida last year. And that receiver, you don't have a lot of proven talent, but you do have a good amount of talent in the wide receiver room. It's just that you don't really have any household names yet outside of Ricky Pearsall, aka Pretty Ricky. Now, they do have a wide receiver who I really like a lot, who could have a breakout year this season. His name is Marcus Burke. He was going off in the spring game. He had probably the best catch of that whole entire game. It was a bad throw by Graham Mertz, but it was a fantastic catch by him. And he also comes from the 904, so we're always going to show love to our 904 brethren around here. And then this defense should improve. It was really awful last year. They bring in defensive coordinator Austin Armstrong, who is the youngest defensive coordinator amongst Power 5 DCs going into this year. And this is somebody who kind of had some options, and he opted to go to Gainesville, and he's one of the youngest up-and-coming stars that we have at the DC position. So for Florida fans, there's a lot of optimism about how improved this defense is going to be in 2023. So for Graham Mertz, if he can play at a good level, I think Florida is capable of being able to win at least 6 to 7 games. Now, for Florida to win more than 7 games, they're going to need Graham Mertz to play at a Heisman caliber level, which I'm pretty sure has a low chance of happening, but there's a higher chance of Graham Mertz being solid and being serviceable versus him playing at a Heisman level. Let's just face it, Graham Mertz, if he plays at a Heisman level, it's going to be the biggest surprise, not just this college football season, but one of the biggest surprises in college football history and recent memory, because this dude was not good at Wisconsin. But if he ends up having a solid season for Florida and the run game ends up being as good as what it was last year, and he can get some solid protection up front, there's a strong chance that Florida can over-exceed a lot of people's expectation, because most people expect this to be a rebuilding year for the Gators and Billy Napier. Their schedule is really difficult. You got to go on the road to kick off your season against Utah, one of the best teams in the Pac-12, and you saw how you beat Utah last year. So Kyle Whittingham and company are most definitely looking for revenge, and it's really hard to win on the road at Utah. But if Graham Mertz plays solid this year, he plays well in that game, and I definitely think that Florida has a good chance of pulling off the upset, because the best chance to pull off an upset is at the start of the college football season. Then you play McNeese State. Regardless if Graham Mertz plays well or not, you should be able to beat them. Then you got to play Tennessee, which I don't know if y'all can beat Tennessee if Graham Mertz plays solid. I think, like what I said earlier, if you're going to try to win more than 7 games, you need Graham Mertz to play at a Heisman caliber level. And if you're going to beat Tennessee, you need Graham Mertz to play one of the best games of his collegiate career. Then you play Charlotte, That's a winnable game. You go on the road and play Kentucky. I definitely think if you can get some good QB play out of Graham Mertz in that game, you're going to have a shot at beating them, even though I do think that Kentucky is being heavily slept on this year. Vanderbilt, you should be able to take care of them. Then you got to play South Carolina. Now, South Carolina is a toss-up. They didn't have a good defense last year. We don't know how that defense is going to look this year, so that definitely is a winnable game. Then you got your bye week, and then you got to play Georgia, which you probably don't have no chance at being able to win that game. I understand it's a rivalry game, but let's just be honest. Florida is down here and Georgia is all the way up here, so I doubt you're going to have a chance at being able to win that game regardless how well Graham Mertz plays. Arkansas is really interesting. They have a couple of question marks. They've had a good amount of roster turnover. If you can get good play out of Mertz in that game, I think it could go either way, and you are playing at home. And then your last 3 games of the regular season, on the road in Death Valley at LSU, on the road against Missouri, back-to-back. I think there is a small chance that maybe you pull off the upset against LSU, maybe. I don't think LSU is as good as what a lot of people think they will be. Then you got to play Missouri under Eli Drinkwitz. Missouri is the definition of mid, so definitely that's a winnable game for Florida. And then you got to play your rival, Florida State, which I don't really think you're going to be able to win that game. So if Florida can get good, serviceable QB play out of Graham Mertz, you know, he can take care of the football, not turn it over, be a good game manager. This is a squad that can end up winning 6 games, maybe 7. Maybe they can pull off upset against Tennessee or Arkansas or LSU. But for Florida to win more than 7 games, you need this fool to play at a Heisman level. You need him to have Bo Nix, Michael Penix kind of production like what they had last year with their new squads. And I don't think it can happen, but there is a small chance that it can happen. But I think more likely, if we want to be a little bit more realistic, if you can get him playing at a serviceable level, which is definitely possible, I think that Billy Napier is a pretty good head coach. I'm way higher on Billy Napier than most people. I don't know why. I was watching him a lot when he was the head coach at Louisiana Lafayette. I was just a big fan of Elijah Mitchell and Levi Lewis, so that's why I was watching him so much at Louisiana. So I'm kind of a little bit biased towards Billy Napier. I know I pride my channel on being unbiased, but I really do like Billy Napier. I am rooting for him to succeed in Florida. I do think that he will be a pretty good head coach for Florida. I know if you're a Gators fan, things look really, really bleak right now, even though you're having a lot of success in recruiting. But I'm pretty sure a lot of people, once the season rolls around, they're going to be really depressed when it comes to discussing and watching Florida football. But if Graham Mertz can at least be serviceable for Florida, I think it's really, really realistic for them to be able to win 6-7 games. Florida is more than capable of being able to pull off an upset. And hell, if you can get solid QB play out of Graham Mertz, he might be better than what Anthony Richardson was last year. Anthony Richardson, in a lot of Gators fans' eyes, was highly inconsistent. Some Gators fans who even go as far to call him trash. I'm not going to go that far, but I do think for Anthony Richardson, though, he had a lot of inexperience. Graham Mertz is somebody who brings a lot of experience to the table. He is somebody who started in a lot of games, and if you can get the run game going, give this man some good protection, and you can have receivers step up around him, I think there's a good chance that maybe he could end up surprising some folks this year and being serviceable and being a pretty good QB. So this is just a hypothetical situation. What if Graham Mertz is good for the Gators? I know some of you Gators fans were probably hoping for me to have you winning 8-9 games, but for that to happen, you need this whole entire team, not just Graham Mertz, to step up. You also need to catch a couple of breaks in your schedule. You're going to have to pull off a couple of upsets or two. And I just don't think, even if Graham Mertz plays at a serviceable level or average level, that you're going to be able to win too many games. Florida just doesn't really have a great team this year. At best, they could be in the middle of the pack, but more than likely, they probably are going to be one of the more worst teams in the SEC this year. But if Graham Mertz can play well and play at least serviceable football for them, there's a road for them to win 6-7 games this year.